Just answering questions with WAPTech, playing catch-up. I figured I'd get these done as fast as I can. Here we go. Here's a video link to Stephen Greer for reference. From what he is saying in the video, I assume that there is a theoretical basis for free energy. I've already covered that badly, but accurately. I mean, it is kind of one of those stupid, simple ideas, but here we go. And that inventors are working on harnessing its use through technology. Okay. Only to have their work taken away from them. Okay, I'm going to explain something to everybody here really quickly. I'm going to give you an example of an invention and how to keep me from being killed by the evil oligarchy out there. You want to know what it is? No, this is literally the most effective method for free energy on this planet. I'm not actually making a joke. This is really it. Use the least amount of energy you can. I know that sounds really stupid. I'm going to give a complete answer for this because maybe I'll just do the whole video on this. But the thing that big energy and big oil, and for some reason all of you out there ignore big oil means big corporations that some of you seem to think are supposed to have a right to free speech by bribing people. They lie to you by having you look at free energy devices. I'm not kidding. What's the most effective method to keep you from destroying them? Create a fake grassroots thing this is called astroturfing. And get you to believe in crap that isn't real and keep you spinning your wheels in the mud. Well, they tell you it's mud. It's not mud. Maybe it is a video like this that gave rise to the original question which I commented on, which is, about free energy being suppressed and that sort of thing. That was what the video was about. I've got a bunch of off-topic comments on this, so I don't want to cover them in this video, but I might do one or two. But here we go. There is absolutely no basis to state that someone has had their work taken from them or had it suppressed. If you work for a large corporation and you have discovered a breakthrough technology that will free the world of dependence on any energy source at all, and you somehow are stupid, I mean literally cartoon bad guy monologuing about how he's going to blow up the planet with a big laser stupid. If you're literally cartoon character stupid enough to think, oh, I'm going to get a Nobel Peace Prize for coming up with this, and you aren't aware of the rumors of people disappearing somehow, you literally have to be smart enough to figure out how to channel free energy from zero-point energy or tapping the universal zonk and yin and yang to run, your little machine over here. If you discovered how to do that, you're smart enough to do that, but you're still bombastically stupid enough to think that you shouldn't consider for a second that the large corporation paying your paycheck might get rid of you if it was in their best interest. Now, I'm going to give an actual example of this, not the one about not using energy as much. By the way, if anybody's curious, literally, no, I'm not kidding. That is the answer. The reason we have an energy crisis is there's too many of us. All you all have to do is reduce the amount of energy you consume as much as possible. If everyone does that, we would have an energy surplus, and the energy companies would have to do what they did in the 70s, faking an energy crisis. That's all they do. They're pretty much pulling the same amount of fuel out of the ground. That's why we're recycling it now, because they're starting to actually run out. We are not hitting peak oil exactly, but it's getting like that. We're bleeding tar sands. And if you don't think energy companies are exploiting the hell out of every other alternative energy source they can find to try to stay in business, they don't care about oil. They care about making money. If they know that but the first people who know that the oil is running out are the people drilling it. They're going to switch over to something else to stay relevant. Sort of like MTV keeps trying to do something on YouTube, but their viewer to subscriber ratio is no different than mine. It's just 1,000 to 1 difference in number, but they're not doing any better than I am. Think about that. Old media is going to die because of the medium you're watching this on, the internet itself. Which is the reason they're flailing their arms like the Wall Street Journal and attacking people on YouTube. because they're dying, because they don't understand how to hack the net. They don't know how to hack the Gibson. Okay? Well, oil companies are run by people who experience massive amounts of money just because car culture. That's really what drove it. Using oil to make materials like plastics out of? Yeah, right, but it's fuel mostly, right? Well, we have alternatives to every single component in oil now. We use silicone instead of plastics and rubbers. We are actually making it to where they're not needed anymore, except for a few compounds. They're going to switch over to other stuff because now it's just about making money. They don't care how. If you believe a rich person isn't smart enough to get out of a business that's going to eventually die when they find out it's dying, you're an idiot. Okay? No, I mean really, it's just a fairy tale you're telling yourself. Rich people don't care about what they do. They care about making money and staying rich, and then having that power to wield and sometimes do some good things and bad things both. They do. Okay? Not everybody's evil, okay? But not everybody's good either. We're mostly a mixture. But anyway, let's get back to this breakthrough technology that has been taken. You can't take technology away from someone if they give it away first. If I found out that my company had been suppressing some technology to create a poke into the universe, I'd do the experiment at home if I could make sure I wasn't caught, Faraday cage, and find out if I could tap that energy. If I could, I would then simply do a bunch of write-ups and dump them all at the same time to the net. I wouldn't make a bunch of YouTube videos where I'm claiming to be Mr. Hutchinson and I'm actually dangling a string and making something look like it's hovering when it's not, and then getting caught and admitting it later. I'd be giving somebody something as simple to understand as the following. I'm going to give you an example. Okay, this is how it actually is done. You build a coil of wire, several different coils of wire, different diameters that you make them around, different gauges, and you spread them out or compress them. You put various kinds of metal in the middle or whatever to act as a core. And you use them as extremely low frequency receivers around 8 cycles per second and try to get them to resonate, because that's the resonant frequency approximately for the Earth for a signal being emanating somewhere and then bouncing back off the other side of the planet and bouncing back to it. This resonant effect is the one that Tesla talked about. It's a resonant frequency. There's a whole bunch of them, and there are multiples of that. 4 cycles per second, 2 cycles per second, and then up from 8, 16, 32, 64. It's binary progression, including 1 cycle per second. And you find out the ones that are in your area that seem to produce power. You make a bunch of these resonant circuits, resonators, and you measure the amount of wattage you can rectify out of them over a 1-year period of time. Now that description I've just done is a really blurry thumbnail sketch on how to do it. And that's quite useful because it tells you experiment until you find the right resonant coil. This is exactly what you see on YouTube videos. I just saved you thousands of hours of watching. The trouble is they make rodent coils and other things that are really tiny that resonate at millions of cycles per second. You know, right where radio signals are coming out. Yeah. And if you haven't noticed it, 64 cycles per second is about the same frequency as power lines. So if you're going to be building these coils to test this, you can test this. This is literally what Tesla was talking about. It has nothing to do with anything else. Every other page you read and every other video you look at is lying about this. This has been understood since then. It's actually in his patents and his discussions and paperwork. He was trying to tap the resonant noise from the Earth. There's a bunch of practical things that keep it from being useful, but you can do the experiments. And these coils get really big. And you're going to have to use germanium sledgehammer diodes. They're really, really big diodes. Not because they take a lot of current, but because that really lowers the resistance when they flash into conductance. And they trigger at lower voltages. Less than half a volt. Okay? And that's the entire instruction. Go do it. How much power do you get out? At peak, when there's some noise source somewhere on the Earth and you just happen to be at one of the nodes, you can get up to 10 kilowatts for a couple of seconds. And you can dump it into a battery and save it. Or you can spend a quarter per kilowatt, that would be $2.50 to get 10 kilowatts, by having a grid tie-in connection. And you don't need 10,000 watts, you can just use less energy. Insulate your house. Make sure the Make sure the attic is finished, a finished attic. Don't leave it bare where wires are so some bug or animal can bite on the wires and eventually chew into it and they'll catch on fire and burn your building down. Have drywall on the inside. Make sure everything's insulated. Build a building that's practical, mostly a box shape. You can make it octagonal, but you can just make a box. Use double glass windows. What you do is you use less, because this artificial level of demand is caused by us being wasteful and it being encouraged for decades. See, that's the big taken away from them. Their new technology. This was explained hundreds of times over in books, movies, videos you've watched. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It doesn't have any danger and frustration and antagonistic behavior. It doesn't have conspiracy theory in it. I live in a tent. I just use a really good sleeping bag. I have a tent that's double walled so that it's less likely to get me cold during the night, during winter. During the summer I don't even have to have this stuff. When I lived indoors, last time I lived in a place, it was a converted garage that I turned into a house. I called it my hovel. I just insulated the damn thing, and I didn't even need to heat it during the winter most of the time. I used a 100 to 200 watt heat source. I paid virtually nothing for electricity, and if you're curious, you can run a generator or a solar panel, and that is just enough heat requirement that would actually work. So you could be off-grid, technically, in winter time. I actually did all the experiments. This is not complicated. I can build a wind power thing, and it won't put out as much energy as, let's say, a gas engine, and almost as much or about the same as a solar panel, depending on what time of day it is. These aren't really deep secrets. Nobody is suppressing the technology because everybody says, well, I'm under danger of death all the time, and yet they're walking around perfectly healthy for years and years. And then, oh, one of them died. Yeah, and then you see later on his partner who's carrying on the fight, right, like you'd do that if your friend got killed. And suspiciously, there's someone in the audience that looks just like the guy who's supposed to be dead. And then later on, the partner dies, and someone else comes back, 10 years later, so his appearance changes. It's the same. There's one born every minute. I've debunked literally thousands of perpetual motion machines and fake inventions, because every single time you look them up, they refuse to do the basic stuff that would show that they really did something, because they didn't. Proof's in the pudding, and they don't even want to get out the bowl to start mixing anything. They want you to keep investing in them. If you invest in something and it doesn't pay off, you can't demand your money back. Did you know that? So no, the free energy idea, if anybody's curious about it, is based on the idea of tapping something even more fundamental and even lower power than the noise created by this planet simply being a big resonant kind of circuit, if you want to think of it that way. And yeah, you can get a burst of 10,000 watts. You can also induce it by pumping about 20,000 watts into the atmosphere and get 30,000 back out. It'll give you that 1,000 watts back a lot more reliably. And in the process, it disrupts the magnetic field of the Earth, and you could technically cause a collapse of what keeps us from getting blasted by the solar wind if you want. Tesla dropped this idea because messing with literally the shield for this planet that's created by the magnetic field and the plasma from the sun might be a damn dumb idea. Those are called the Van Allen belts. They keep us from getting blasted. But anyway, and that's just me blowing smoke up everybody's butt. Just use less energy, and always have a grid tie-in. Even if you don't use it, you can just not use it and you pay the minimum. Get a generator, get a good one. Get a solar panel and a wind turbine. But sitting around playing with coils of wire, it's a fun activity. You learn how to do these experiments, but it never does anything that you think it's going to do. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And no, this is a false narrative. Bye.